Saw. Saw presents traps designed with impossible conditions. The games claim to offer choice, survive or die based on your actions. But the structure reveals survival was never the intended outcome. What makes this devastating is false agency. Jigsaw positions himself as a teacher, the traps as lessons, the victims as students who can learn their way out. But the mechanisms betray this claim. Time limits that don't allow for completion, tools that malfunction by design, choices that kill regardless of which option is selected. The terror here isn't the violence. It's realizing the test was rigged. You're not being evaluated. You're being executed with the aesthetics of judgment. The atmosphere builds around problem solving, clues, timers, instructions. But every solution leads to the same end. Because the trap wasn't built to be escaped. It was built to appear escapable. And that gap between designed hope and designed failure is where the real horror lives. But what if survival isn't blocked by mechanism? What if it's blocked by prophecy? Final Destination. Final Destination removes survival as an option through inevitability. Death was cheated. The order was disrupted. And the design corrects itself. What makes this concept terrifying is predetermined outcome. The survivors see the plane crash before it happens. They escape. They believe they changed their fate. But death doesn't negotiate. The structure here is correction. Each survivor dies in the order they were meant to, not randomly, sequentially. And every attempt to avoid death only delays it. The mechanism isn't a person. It's not a monster. It's design asserting itself. The film presents each death as an accident. Rube Goldberg sequences of cause and effect. Water, electricity, physics. But the accidents aren't coincidental. They're orchestrated, not by a villain, by inevitability made mechanical. The atmosphere doesn't build suspense around if they'll survive. It builds suspense around how they'll die. Because survival was removed the moment they left the plane. They didn't cheat death. They delayed the conclusion that was already written. But what if survival isn't blocked by fate? What if it's blocked by infection? The thing traps its characters in a space where survival depends on trust. But trust is impossible. What makes this situation unwinnable is contamination without detection. The creature assimilates, perfectly replicates, and spreads through contact. The survivors can't identify who's infected. They can't verify who's human. And isolation becomes the only strategy. But isolation in Antarctica means death. The structure here is competing necessities. Survival requires cooperation, but cooperation spreads infection. Staying together means contamination. Separating means freezing. And the film's ending confirms there was no solution. Two survivors remain, both isolated, both uncertain if the other is human. And the final shot shows them sitting in the cold, waiting, not for rescue, for death. Because even if both are human, they can't trust enough to survive together. The atmosphere doesn't resolve. It acknowledges that some situations have no winning move, only outcomes that delay the inevitable.
Clear! Clear.
But what if survival isn't blocked by uncertainty? What if it's blocked by ritual? The House of the Devil. The House of the Devil sends its protagonist into a situation designed for her death. She doesn't know this, but the family does. What makes this devastating is that she was selected before she arrived. The babysitting job was never real. The timing? A full lunar eclipse was calculated. The entire scenario was constructed to bring her to the house on this specific night. The structure here is theatrical. Every detail was planned. The phone call, the inflated payment, the isolation, and the performance had one purpose: deliver her to the ritual. The atmosphere builds as mundane discomfort. She believes she's taking a strange but harmless job, making money for rent, waiting out a few hours. But she's not the babysitter. She's the sacrifice. The film's final act reveals the family's true purpose: satanic ritual, lunar eclipse, predetermined victim. And she wasn't chosen because of who she was. She was chosen because she fit the requirements: young, alone, available on the right night. The horror isn't that she dies, it's that her death was logistical, necessary, scheduled, impersonal. But what if survival isn't blocked by ritual? What if it's blocked by observation? Funny games. Funny games remove survival by breaking the fourth wall. The family fights back. They get a weapon. They kill one of the intruders. And the other intruder picks up a remote, rewinds the film, and undoes their victory. What makes this unbearable is metatextual control. The killers aren't just stronger. They control the narrative. When the family gains an advantage, it's erased. The structure here is authoritative. The audience wants the family to survive. The genre conventions suggest they should, but the film rejects those conventions deliberately. The killers speak to the camera, ask the audience if they think the family will escape, and confirm they won't, because survival was never part of the design. The film isn't about whether they'll live. It's about making the audience complicit in watching them die. The atmosphere doesn't build false hope. It builds awareness that hope is a genre convention, and this film refuses to honor it. The family dies, not because they failed, but because the film decided they would, and there's no appeal against that decision. But what if survival isn't blocked by narrative control? What if it's blocked by time itself? Timecrimes. Timecrimes traps its protagonist in a loop he creates. He travels back in time, tries to prevent a tragedy, and becomes the cause of it. What makes this impossible is causal dependency. Every action he takes to change the timeline ensures it happens. He sees a woman attacked, travels back to stop it, and discovers he's the attacker. The structure here is closed causality. He can't prevent the events, because his attempt to prevent them is what causes them. Survival isn't blocked by external force. It's blocked by the fact that his existence in the timeline depends on the tragedy occurring. If he stops it, he never travels back. If he never travels back, it happens anyway. The loop is self-sustaining. The atmosphere builds around problem solving. Each iteration, he tries different approaches, different interventions. But every solution creates the problem it was meant to solve. The film ends with him understanding there is no escape, only repetition, and the knowledge that he's locked into a sequence he can't change, because changing it would erase him. And survival, in this case, means perpetuating the exact events he tried to prevent, which feels more hopeless: a system designed to kill you, or one that was always going to, no matter what you did.